Welcome to Femme Fantastic, the Things with Words for International Women's Day 2021. I'm Megan Garrett-Jones. I'm the host. I'm usually a theatre maker, but I've been doing this spoken word gaff for a while, and I'm very pleased to be joined at the Tom Thumb Theatre by Sophie Cameron, Felicia Buena, Fiona, this is the bit where I like ramble and make loads of mistakes in the beginning where this is just like a real gig. You know this is live. Fiona Thompson and Ellie Ward. That was ridiculous. I was staring right at her. Anyway, so you know this is real. We're in a real theatre. There's real poets. And even though you guys are out there, you are a real audience. And your magic is real. And I believe it. So if you can send us your good vibes and your openness to whatever you're going to experience tonight, we're going to feel it, okay? So the thing that the performers tonight have in common is that we experience the world as women. And I was explaining the concept to a friend of mine, and that we're all from Thanet, or we live here now, or we grew up here. And she said, so you should call it Fanny's from Thanet. And she's allowed to say that because she's a legend of the alternative cabaret scene. And then I explained it a bit more, and she suggested the byline, activism and filth. So you know what to expect, and that's strictly in a good way. So although we might not agree on a singular definition of the feminine or woman, we're here because we want to celebrate the feminine energy, and we want to show it as equal because, of course, more than ever, this is a term that we need to fight oppression. What did I write that? I'm just rambling. Big thanks to our tech team. I don't know if you noticed. I don't know if they're swooping between camera angles and stuff. We got an amazing tech team. All their details are all around the stream. And a big thanks to Tom Thumb Theatre for having us, and Sarah and Alex. I think I should just cut to like my first piece because clearly this like camera stuff is making me quite nervous. So we're also in the POW Fringe program, and so thanks for the POW Power of Women Festival for listing us and for inspiring us with the theme for this year's festival, which is Power in Protest. So I promised you ukulele, so I'm gonna start. Thank you. See, there is an audience here. I'm going to start, and I've had a bit more time lately, lockdown. There it is. So I've managed to set one of my poems to music, and this is a poem I wrote after a dream I had, where I went to a writing workshop, and all the participants were goddesses. So in a way, being at a spoken word night full of goddesses is a dream come true. Let's see how this goes. These rocks on my belt are planets plucked from the sky. Got Saturn, Jupiter in my orbit, and more undiscovered by men. Best dressed goddess, I'm here to play free, write a whole page while you uncap your pen and chew the end. I'm never starting again. I'm searching like I'll save my rage for battle days. Now we're amongst friends. Did I mention I wrote French? Don't even speak it, but maybe I do. Oh la la! Let's salt and poivre our conversation with these affectations. Le beurre. I'm sure I don't slur from a few Vin Rouge. Alors ouais, bien sûr, top up my cup. I'll drink Dionysus under the bench. Yet I'm still hench, cause I know it's all about balance. And the virgin and justice don't and she don't see. My eyes and my cunt are wide open. When I take it all in, it's not original sin. It's living in omniscience, omnibenevolence, omnipotence. You know what's bullshit is being everywhere. I'm here, I'm present to what's dear. If God had a phone, you think she'd use it as a drone? Survey without entering, you get shot down. Wear pace on my cheek, listen when others speak, I'm on the ground. And her body's her temple. If she invites me to cross the threshold, I'm always respectful. Admire their shrine, never claim it as mine. Don't say how to dress it or what to put in it. The sovereigns are wrong. We're not organs of the state. Each is their own planet, each with their core burning, and God is many, and God is learning. And I'll drink Dionysus under the bench, yet I'm still hench, 'cause I know it's all about balance. The virgin and justice don't get it, 'cause she don't feel and she don't see. My eyes and my heart are wide open. Thank you. Just get that off. Oh, stuck on the earring. Women's problems. No, people who wear earrings problems. Come on, let's de-gender fashion. Anyone can wear sparkles. Anyone can wear earrings, just like anyone can wear shorts, and anyone cannot be judged on their appearance all the time. Lols. So, moving on with feminism, because I know that's what you're all here for. Calm down, Ellie. I got one more poem. I know.
I want to pull my pants up and adjust it all.
Adjust what you need. The future of feminism is intersectional, and what that means is understanding that there's levels of oppression that kind of meet each other up. So while you could experience unequal treatment as a woman, you might have privilege as a white person, or you might have economic privilege. And I think some of the most exciting and important voices in feminism at the moment are coming from non-white, non-European and native voices. And I personally got really excited when I read Audre Lorde's The Power of the Erotic. And I wanted to share that because although we have this beautiful vagina on stage and it might sound like there's a bit of smut going on. It's actually like a celebration of part of our identity that is being sort of distorted and had distance from ourselves inserted. So yeah, inserted. I mean that. So I'm going to read a few bits from The Power of the Erotic. Basically, just considering the erotic as the way that we feel things deeply. So Audre Lorde says it's the open and fearless underlying of my capacity for joy, and it's the expression of what is deepest, strongest, and richest within each of us being shared. Once we begin to feel deeply all aspects of our lives, we begin to demand from ourselves and our life pursuits that they feel in accordance with that joy which we know ourselves to be capable of. And that is why it's a powerful thing, and that's why they're scared of it, and they try and turn it into pornography and tell us it's not okay. So I got one more poem before I pass it on to the beautiful Ellie Ward. And it's a bit of a lockdown poem. My hips rise and make gullies. My hair is soft and downy, curling where it is warmest. My hand takes a rest on my breast. Do you know what? I'm gonna have to start that again. I'm so sorry. It's so weird that there's like not having an audience and cameras everywhere. So let me just start that again. At least you guys, when you perform, you'll be like, well, she really screwed that up. So we feel quite good. My hips rise and make gullies. My hair is soft and downy, curling where it is warmest. My toes reach out, my knees pull in, my hand takes a rest on my breast. A ribbon's pulled up and in through my clenching pelvis. My eyelash kisses my cheek. My ear nuzzles my shoulder. My stomach is turned on the bed and flattens. Tunnels are for exploring. And that is about whatever you want it to be, and I totally screwed it up. So I'm going to pass it on to Ellie Ward. Let's hope I do a better job as a host than remembering poets. So Ellie is, she's the host of Babe Slam. That's why I'm allowed to call her a total babe. She was shortlisted on the New Voice 2021. She's garnered a lot of attention. She's doing residencies with Apples and Snakes, and let's hope she keeps hosting and performing all her gigs when we're allowed to do all that stuff again. Over to you, Ellie.
Woo! Thanks, Meg. Hello, I'm Els. I'm dressed as an ode to the prom. I never made it to, because by the time the starters were out in the big fancy house, I was passed out on the floor and I threw up on my head of sixth form shoe. So this is for younger me. And my first poem is an ode to Rosalind. Rosalind is the most underrated character in the whole of Shakespeare's canon. Rosalind listens to Best Thing I Never Had on repeat whilst painting her fingernails red. Rosalind is my favourite character in the whole of Romeo and Juliet, basically because she's not in it. Watching badly acted stagings of this production in a fake Globe theatre does not remind me at all that love is blind. It actually just reminds me that love is really boring. And it makes me want to take the dagger out of Juliet's hands and stab myself to death in the audience, so I don't have to take any more of this toxic relationship, which is why I love Rosalind so much. We never get to actually meet Rosalind. We just hear about her, mainly because Romeo spends the first part of the play chatting shit about her. Romeo is really sad because Rosalind has sworn she'll live chaste so he can no longer see her face. But then Romeo explains his unwanted sexual advances towards Rosalind. Rosalind will not stay the siege of loving terms, nor abide the encounter of assailing eyes, nor ope her lap to saint seducing gold, which basically translates as, Rosalind doesn't like it when I talk to her and then she walks away and I just keep on talking at her. Rosalind doesn't like it when I just stare at her loads. And the weirdest of all is that Rosalind doesn't want to fuck me, when actually the truth is everyone wants to fuck me. Oh my God. I've just signed a vow of chastity, babe, so I literally can't sleep with you. The Jacobean equivalent of the excuses we've all given to insistent men. Excuses like, well, you can't have my number because I've lost my phone, and you can't come back to mine, I've got a baby at home. Oh, and I can't come out on Thursday because I'm washing my hair, and I'm getting married in a week, and also I've got chlamydia and gonorrhea, and I don't really know how to say this to you, but I'm actually, I'm on my period. But even after all these excuses, there are still men who will not take the silent no threaded beneath our subtle rejections, men like Romeo. And the only reason Romeo actually leaves Rosalind alone is due to his unfounded and frankly bizarre respect for organised religion, which has nothing to do with Rosalind and more to do with a white bearded bloke who sits in the sky eating olives and watching small children die. I just think me and Rosalind would have got on. Could you imagine, the look on Rosalind's mother's face when she hears about the dual suicides of Romeo and Juliet? I bet she'd roll up a cig and I bet she'd smoke it in her kitchen. And I bet she'd stub it out and shout upstairs, Rosalind, but Rosalind obviously wouldn't hear because she'd be dancing in her bedroom with a headphone in each ear. And when Rosalind eventually comes downstairs, unfazed and yet curious, and after Rosalind's mother has given her the terrible news, I bet Rosalind's mother would say, oh, I know it's bad, Ros, but I never really liked him anyway. Poor bastard. I mean, head up in the clouds he was. And don't get me wrong, it was a shame. I just never liked the way he stood under your window shouting and shouting your name. Thanks. That's that poem. So moving from a maligned fictional figure to like real life maligned women, the next poem is going to be about Ted Bundy. And if there was like a big crowd, I'd be like, anyone know who Ted Bundy is? And one girl would be like, yeah, which is kind of not the point. If you don't know, he was a serial killer that killed about 30 women in the 1970s. And he's kind of been canonized as like this seductive, like charming man. And actually, he was just a fucking loser. So this poem is called Ted Bundy Was a Fucking Loser. I can't believe I'm actually having to say this, but after careful time, thought and consideration spent, I've come to this remarkable, unique opinion that Ted Bundy was a fucking loser. And it's not that I think all murderers are like necessarily losers. For instance, when I found out that in the 1970s Inez Garcia had shot her rapist, I wasn't like, she sounds like a loser. But men who break into university girls' dorms and bludgeon them to death while they sleep, losers. Men who pretend they have broken arms in order to entice women into their cars and then consequently murder, rape and decapitate them, losers. Men who jump women from behind in the dark, drag their bodies away and mutilate them, losers. Which begs the question, why do so many women still want to shag him? Well, we all love a bad boy, Els. Yeah, but not a fucking necrophiliac, Chris. Bludgeoning is not clever. Dragging from behind is not seduction. Broken arm is not charisma. And yet, these words caress Bundy's silhouette like the lovers I bet he wished he could have had. Here's an idea. Maybe Bundy wasn't that clever. Maybe the police were just really fucking stupid. Probably because they spent the majority of their time just like growing moustaches and generally looking like they were having an incredibly intense fag break on the set of a 70s porno. Ted Bundy was not clever. That man did not invent rape. That man did not invent violence. That man did not invent fear. That man did not invent mutilation. That man did not invent decapitation. That man did not invent an institutionalized acceptance that every now and again in our society, a woman is going to be dragged away and murdered and there's like not much we can do about it. That man did not invent an institutionalized acceptance that white men who like maybe are studying for a degree, wear a tie and take some showers are unlikely to be serial killers. And even if he did invent every single one of these things, why the fuck would we compliment him for it? And by compliment, I mean the admiration we bestowed upon that man when we released a film in his name entitled Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil and Vile. How about we just call it Extremely Weird, Society Erases Victims, or Extremely Worrying, Sadistic Ego Validated? Because when we express amazement at a man's crime, even if intended to imply horror, we simultaneously congratulate him and validate his ego. Extremely clever, shockingly charismatic and charming. And to be fair, it is pretty easy to forget he was a fucking loser when Zac Efron played him in the feature-length film. A wink to the camera, a smirk to the court in his good boy tie. One time I spent around 45 seconds wondering what Netflix would do economically as a company if men just stopped murdering women, and I couldn't think of an appropriate response. That man went into Kathy Cleaner's dorm and bludgeoned her over the head. And Kathy didn't actually have time to notice if Ted was charming or charismatic or clever because she was asleep at the time. But that's where clever Ted got it wrong, because he thought Kathy was dead, but she woke up the next day with a hole in her head, and Kathy is still alive today. And after her attack, Kathy had her jaw broken and rewired shut. And after her attack, Kathy sipped through a straw for 9 weeks. And after her attack, Kathy was 21. And a year after her attack, Kathy was working on the reception at a bank when it was robbed at gunpoint. And apparently, she took that afternoon off work and then just came in the next day. And do you know what she had to say? Do you know what Kathy Cleaner had to say? Do you know? Kathy said, well, what are the chances the bank would be robbed 2 nights in a row? Thanks. Thank you. Ted Bundy's a loser. Moving swiftly on to people who aren't losers, I thought I'd add a bit of a lighter poem into the mix. And this is about my bestest and oldest friend, Izzy. I could cry. I love her so much. I told her, if you're watching Izzy, I said I was going to add bits to it, and I just haven't done that. So this is just the OG version. So yeah, this is an ode to Iz. I wrote a poem for you once. I was 15 and I recorded it on my iPod, and I listened it back to it myself, headphones in, but I never played it to you. Maybe because I was embarrassed and thought it sounded like a love poem. But it was a love poem, duh. Just not a love poem that meant I want to kiss you on the lips. Because I didn't want to kiss you on the lips and you didn't want to kiss me on the lips. And now, even though we love each other deeply and truly, we still don't want to kiss each other on the lips, which is actually great because it means the feeling is mutual. And this feeling and its mutuality has expressed itself in various ways. Like when we were 11 and I'd meet you every day at the station before school, which was incredibly shit, because you'd make me carry your PE kit and it was 20 minutes out of my way, but hey, we'd be alone, playing music from your phone, rolling up our skirts and then our eyes at the boys who went to Charlie Dick's, or like the time when we were 18 and we woke up opposite each other, separate sides of my bed. There was a weird smell in the air, and that's when I noticed the cum in your hair and the blood threaded beneath my fingernails. In the hours before this moment, you'd been misbehaving with a boy in a park, and I'd been having sex with a boy, like, for the first time. And our pores were sweating out lime Smirnoff, and we had mascara under our eyes, and we probably should have cried, but we laughed and laughed and laughed. We did not cower until that is, I said to you, is you need to get in the fucking shower, and you'll probably hate me for writing that moment into a poem, but really is, you should be smug, because I only write odes for people I love. I only write odes for people who make people better people. I only write odes for people who scar and sweat and bruise and fuck it, they sunbathe anyway. I only write odes for girls who make me feel like I'm the luckiest girl. Obviously not in the world, but definitely in Thanet. I only write odes for girls who remind me of the friendship in The Fox and the Hound, but like the good bits before they get split up and they break up and they move on. I only write odes for people who call me out for being a messy, forgetful, lazy cunt, but still love me and care for me when it counts. Because I only write odes for people like you, Iz, who I completely love. And please don't take offence, but I really don't want to kiss. Thanks. That's that. I think I've got a bit of time. So they were quite polished poems, and I thought I'd just share a few rambles. So maybe one day these will like be kind of slammy poems like them poems, but until then you'll get a sneak preview. So I'm just gonna go through them. This one's called I Don't Want to Have Any More Opinions Ever, I Just Want to Have a Pint with Katie. Even though I know Katie knows I have a lot of opinions on a lot of things, and Katie, my opinions are not mutually exclusive. I just want to have a pint with Katie and talk about the people we've known and laugh at the way this stupid little world keeps being herself. That's that little one. Another little thought that could be a poem. According to Reddit, it's extremely risky to take a barge on open sea. And another problem I'm having is when people are nice to me, I want to curl up in a ball and briefly leave my flesh and run away to Mars for a bit before I come back and say, thanks, I really like your shoes. And then, yeah, another little one. This is actually 4 lines. When you enter my brain, I'm actually not kidding. A literal image of a massive shoe enters my mind and boots you right out of there. And this is a longer one. This is my mum's watching. This is Happy Mother's Day, Mum. And this is about her mum, my nan, and the story she told me, because I've kind of recently come to the realisation that the things I'm interested in, like the everyday and the extraordinary and the ordinary, it's like just my nan and like the stories she'd tell me when I'd stay around hers on the weekends. So this is literally just actually quite a short list of the stories my nan told me. Police at the door. They've come for our Lee. A window's been broken down the road. The boys on the estate have dobbed in Lee. Should have seen the look on the policeman's face when they came to the door and he was only free. Ghost stories. Women who actually levitated. Her nan being taken away in an ambulance, kicking and screaming. They never saw her again. A kid at school running over Lee's legs with a bike. Knitted swimming costumes. Her pet rabbit called Peter that her dad secretly cooked and gave her for dinner. Being a kid and having scarlet fever during the Blitz and lying in bed whilst a bomb went off, her window shattered, but the glass blasted onto the grass outside, and it must have been a bloody miracle. The doctors calling my mum Skinny Jane, and my nan went nuts. She started smoking because the older girl started smoking, and it was the steroids that made her gain weight. She found mum's cigarettes in mum's room and mum said they were Julie's, but Nan knew they were mum's and that mum was lying about them being Julie's. Grandad trying to take Nan to the cinema when they were 18, but they had to take Alan and Sandra, Nan's brother and sister, and worst of all, they had to watch The Wizard of Oz, a clear indicator that my granddad must have really fancied my Nan, big time. Nan's dad being so strict, he was the only one allowed to speak when they ate dinner. After the rabbit incident, she didn't speak to her dad for 3 months. EastEnders plot lines from before my time. Maybe it was actually 6 months. Watching a pal eat a banana after the war and feeling jealous. Intense moral reasoning about how ethical it was to give his daughter the banana when my nan obviously didn't have a banana. Never mess with supernatural stuff. She saw Tina and she knew from the look on Tina's face that Tina was actually pregnant. How I used to want to bring my toy pram whenever she brought my real pram, so we would end up just pushing the prams together, which means they were either 2 real prams or 2 fake prams. The one time I nearly crossed the road too quick and without her. One time I found a picture of my mum and her ex-boyfriend, and my nan aggressively told me to rip it up right now. And that is actually my memory. How elegant, how dramatic, what perfect art to get rid of the physical and leave only the clues that you can give. Thanks, that's all my poems. Thank you.
Amazing. I know you're all clapping at home. Thank you so much,
Love
Ellie.
you, Mum.
Oh yeah, happy Mother's Day to all the mums out there. Our next poet is Sophie Cameron. She might have wowed some of you at Screaming Alley. When I asked her what I could say about her, she said that people keep asking her to stop writing poetry, and yet she continues. But I don't believe that. And if they are stupid, because she is amazing and she is a wordsmith and she's gone missing. Sophie? Sophie?
I'm just waiting for the system to fill up there. This is a found poem. It's called Tinder Bender. Basically, everything that is said in here has been said to me. I want to hear you squelch with every wet thrust, said Andrew, 45, 3 miles away. Tinder bender, oh how droll life would be without Tinder. Tell me how large, tell me how big, tell me how your tits are. Tinder bender, oh how magnolia life would be without Tinder. My wool weave trousers are so taut now, my cock is like a fucking concrete outhouse. You did this to me. It's inputting erroneous values into my Excel spreadsheets. Talking to Excel spreadsheets, I'd like to see your fucking spreadsheets. Tinder bender, oh how flaccid life would be without Tinder. Come on over to WhatsApp and send me a pussy pic. You better not be frigid, I want to peer inside you. Tinder bender, oh how gormless life would be without Tinder. I want you on all fours on my polished mahogany dining room table with your coal holes looking up like Princess Diana. Tinder bender, oh how docile life would be without Tinder. Meet me at Charing Cross in half an hour. I'll be packed into a 5k suit and I'll make sure I wank one off in the bogs beforehand so I don't come before I've tasted you properly. Tinder bender, oh how potpourri life would be without Tinder. I want your brains all over my headboard. In other words, I'm going to fuck your fucking brains out. Tinder bender, oh how inefficient life would be without Tinder. Do you like kissing? I fucking love fucking kissing. I'm going to erode your face away with kisses. Like the sea beating up against the white cliffs, chipping away all that gypsum. My tongue is going to be so far down your fucking throat that I'll be basically gifting you a rim job. Tinder bender, oh how selfish life would be without Tinder. Did I tell you have an Olympic medal for eating pussy? Well, there you go, now you know. Tinder bender, oh how constipated life would be without Tinder. I do hope you're skinny, otherwise the fulcrum could prove problematic. I want to toss you about on my cock like lettuce in a salad spinner. Tinder bender, oh how lonely life would be without Tinder. Seriously, when can we meet? We can do drinks somewhere first if you like, before we smash our genitals together, smiley face. I mean before we fuck. I mean before we make love. I mean you're not a swan, are you? 'Cause swans mate for life. Don't tell me another fucking swan. I bet you've never orgasmed the way I've made the other woman I've fucked orgasm. You fucking ugly, fucking stupid bitch. You just won a many cunts, you know, and you're not even that pretty. I bet you wank yourself to sleep with a chainsaw. Tinder bender, oh how vulnerable we would be without Tinder. This one, I don't know which one to do after that bombshell. This one is about when a man came up to me at a wedding when I was a bridesmaid. I think there's some etiquette involved. Why aren't you married? The father of the bride asked me quizzically, his eyebrows stiff like suburban hedgerows, a dirty smile spreading across his face like dog shit smeared in snow. You're lovely, seriously, why aren't you married off to some dashing young chap already? Why aren't you thin? I asked him with a smile. Seriously though, how old are you, 24? I'm 28, I responded impatiently, dragging a mouthful of gin into my mouth. You shouldn't be single at 28, Sophie, Jesus Christ. These are your best years. At which point he slapped my arse. And I didn't dare return the favour, just in case he got his first proper erection in 70 fucking years of nothing. I'm not married at 28, and I have not got married for the 12 years it has been legal for me to do so, because I don't want to be divorced at 30, I responded. Well, that's a very pessimistic attitude for such a pretty young thing. You just obviously haven't met the right fella yet. But don't worry, you will. I let the silence creep up his trouser leg. It sounds like you've been damaged, Sophie. Have you had a rough ride on the man wagon? I gripped my left thigh like Tony Martin clutching his sawn-off shotgun. I'm not fucking worried, I said, because I'm not going to get shackled to some miserable cunt for the rest of my life. Because marriage would be being unfaithful to myself. Now that's not pessimistic, you raging old pedo. That's realistic. I am a lone wolf and I am perfectly happy that way. Being alone does not mean that I am lonely. The left side of my bed does not have a need filling vacancy sign on it. Sometimes that space is occupied by the male equivalent of a chocolate eclair. But that chocolate eclair is never allowed to cream off on my pillows or put fucking slippers on. A big white dress and a big white cake are not my destiny. I'm not saying it can't be anyone else's or that marriage isn't bliss for some people. I just know it's not for me. And that's not because the system has fucked me up and I'm merely rebelling against it because I'm all sad and ugly, because I found my best friend's shit on my boyfriend's cock. Nothing that has happened to me. I am not a girl on fire looking to be wrapped up in a horse in a man costume. I am fine. I am very happy. I am very happy being me, being independent and having too much sex. On average, how many times a day do you look at everyday objects and imagine killing your wife with them? How many other women do you have hidden in your wank bank? At what point in your relationship did the word love become your get out of jail free card? Is endurance the best we can do? Isn't marriage a redundant institution in the modern age? Doesn't your daughter look like a haunted little bitch? Can you imagine how disappointing their lovemaking will be tonight? Look how fucking slaughtered he is. He'll have to chop his way into that wedding dress like Ainsley fucking Harriet. Not everyone is the same. Just as I respect your choices, please respect mine. Just because you are older than me and I am female, please don't treat me as though I don't have control over my own life. The smile that I wear is neither flirty nor fake. Now, would you like to have the best fuck that you've had in decades? I said. Yes, please, he grinned. At which point I shouted, Anne! Anne! And when she turns round to look in our direction, I lick the left side of his face like an ice cream that's run right down his forearm. She'll fuck you well good tonight, I whispered. And when she lets you have a go and you attempt to step off her ransacked body that you know so well, it's going to be like withdrawing from the European fucking Union. Right, I'm gonna end on this one. This is a poem for this is a difficult one for me. This is a poem for my mum, who is the most immense woman. Everyone's mum is immense. My mum is immense. And obviously it's Mother's Day, and this is to celebrate International Women's Day. So I will try and read this without being upset. A woman and her 3 children got on a train from Leeds to Exeter. They had never been on a train before. They sat in the carriage like aliens and watched the countryside roll by as the train carried them away. They all shared a cup of tomato soup, which they thought tasted like the best thing in the world. A man that worked for the railway helped them off the train with their 2 heavy bags. What have you got in there? The kitchen sink, he said. They walked off the platform and into the world. After going the wrong way, just to keep going, They eventually decided it was time to open the door and approach the counter. "How can I help you?" the officer said, sat behind the big desk. "Please, can you take us to the women's refuge? I read about it in this magazine," the woman said, holding up the clipping. "We can't take you unless it's an emergency," the officer responded. "You will have to make your own way there." The woman and her children turned around and walked away, holding hands like a string of fairy lights, the directions instantly slipping through their fingers. An hour later, a little set of knuckles rapped at a red terraced house, which suddenly came alive as the bolts were drawn and the locks turned. A smile opened the door, and they shuddered over the threshold without a word. That night, they slept like mice in one bed, in a room full of broken families. I entered that house, an 11-year-old girl. We entered that house when all was lost. One of the hardest things in life is asking for help, believing that that shouldn't have happened to you, being content, liking, and one day maybe even falling in love with yourself. These are some of the hardest things in the world.
Always really powerful stuff, and really pertinent for the occasion that we are marking with International Women's Day. And our next performer is Felicia Buena. And I forgot to mention for Ellie's accolades that she's an Instagram activist as well. And so Ellie and Felicia are both involved in something called Canvas for Equality, which is a group of young women from Thanet who set this up after the kind of Black Lives Matter movement, and they are kind of promoting equality, and I think that's where like Felicia came to my attention. And she's from Thanet, she's now a fashion student in Manchester, and she said she started writing poetry during lockdown, which is really impressive because I've seen her poetry online. I saw one that she recorded for Crate Studios, was it Crate Studios? Crate Space, which was fantastic. So I'm really pleased to have her here as our next performer. Over to you, Felicia.
Oh, okay. I'm actually quite nervous, but this is actually only the second time I've ever performed my poetry in person, so it's quite iconic. But yeah, so I only started writing in lockdown, but then it just very quickly became word vomit of my dating experiences. If you're friends with me, then you'll know that everyone tells me to get off of dating apps. And if my parents are watching, then yeah, I am on dating apps. So here's you finding out now. So yeah, the first poem I'm going to read is called A Liberal Man's Guide to Dating, which, dating apps haven't really gone that well for me. So to be honest, I use them more as like a creative material. A guy once said to me, actually, he was like, "Oh, you do poetry. Like, I hope I don't end up in a poem." It does often happen because it doesn't go well. So yeah, here's A Liberal Man's Guide to Dating. Hi. I like to call myself a feminist, but I only respect women I'm attracted to. I define it as respect, but some say it's based on a fantasy of fetishization, a sprinkle of patronisation, feeding into the stereotypes of a nation, whole beings, and more. So I'm a little nicer because she's exotic too. I am a feminist, and I'll say it with my whole heart, chest, and soul. I use my internet performance of a love for women as a mechanism to lure women, parading my liberalism as a new fashion statement, a new pair of thrifted jeans. Screaming, "Men are trash," then turning my back to see if all the girls have double tapped. I know my wokeness will get me that. And many swipes. So after I've spoken over you after one pint, not two, an improvement, I can coerce you back to my fairy lit room at the end of the night, reveling in my bare minimum. It's cool to be woke, right? And so a liberal man's guy hating has a part 2 because obviously, yeah, I'm in Manchester now and that world is completely different. So I've honestly, yeah, this part 2 is coming from a first-hand experience of the bizarre behaviour. So here is part 2. A shot of instant gratification comes with complications. Your booty call has feelings and a brain that needs stimulating. Not sighing to the commiserations at weak lies and conversations of egos, so flimsy and weak. Your bitch wants no strings attached, but you want instant fucks and taps, and instant attachment, instant dependency, instant affection on come downs, instant give me therapy and sleep with me, and instant big frazzled brain energy. And the ands go on. So many ands they could fill every condom you refuse to put on. Because remember, sexual health is far down on the list when you're too busy painting your pinkies for feminism, swiping so fast in case you miss. The next girl to try out the new dating trend, something like gaslighting, because woke boys can't be mean when they prefer drinking wine, not beer, watching Rick and Morty, not in the bar fighting. Yeah, that one's done. So the next one is called Russian Doll. And again, well, this is actually written when the bars started to open again from the last, it's been like, 4 lockdowns now? But when they started opening, and again, we were in a pandemic, but it just felt like everyone was just crossing the boundaries a bit too much. Me and my friend just had some weird experiences in the space of like 3 days in Ramsgate Spoons, classic. Of just people constantly just pushing the boundaries at the bar. So this is Russian Doll. Man at the bar. You never owed him pretty. His 1950s tinted aviators illusion we all still fit into a Russian doll mould. Flushed skin, glazed over, fluttering eyes, animated at the right times. He preys on the remnants of childlike eyes, cartoon-like. No words can be pierced through Indian inked lips. So he gets kicks from being glittered in gratification that you'll respond to the spitting of his words, but only when he says so. A personality based on control. He decides when another side of you is allowed out, unpacked like a Russian doll, and presses play on the ready-made laugh track towards the seeds of an ego boost that needs to be let go. His idea of masculinity so fragile it would bleed like the excitement of watercolour if a half-filled jar was left on show. To play the side character in his over-budgeted comedy show for 5 minutes at the bar. But I think he needs to stop watering his rose-filled garden for a year or two, unpick the thorns, understand when he's pushing the boundaries too far, an ego so inflated it pierced my shield of bubbles, my peace of mind, popped by a prick too many. Some new fairy liquid, please. Never fully shutting the door behind him. Take your glasses off. Your words linger, always ajar. I don't know if there's a really long poem, but I don't know how much time I have. I don't know if I've I don't know. Yeah? It's only 3 minutes, it's not that long, but
3 minutes.
yeah. So this is called Lost in Translation, which again, if Izzy's watching, is one of my best friends, and it's just based on many conversations we've had about boys in Arch Bar, referencing rows of Thanet places right now.
Same, is he?
No, but they know each other.
Well, that's a weird twist of events, isn't it?
Yeah.
She's living, so Felicia's Izzy
Yeah.
is living with my Izzy's boyfriend.
Yeah. So mine and Izzy's know each other if they're both watching.
Yeah.
This is Lost in Translation. We meet in the bar under the arch, same spot as always. Drown in the depths of that brown leather sofa on a Thursday evening, flushed cheeks from the walk down through our deserted seaside town, those red hues of light inside warming my cheeks from a frown to a smile. My favourite people are here, and as that candlelight sits between us, I say, Thanet babies is what I like to call us. I take a sip. I think I like him, she says, but not too much, because I don't want to scare him away. I don't want to be too much, but mainly because I can't free my grip on this magnified clutch that sits beneath this driving force of my emotional unavailability. I remind her scaring someone away is asking to meet their mum on the first date. And most importantly, it's 21 now. And open communication is kind of sexy, ladies and gentlemen, because I'm tired of men assuming I have a 24-hour hotline always open for love, believing my only emotional capacity at the grand age of 20 is being with you forever. Mum and Dad, get the tissues ready, wedding bells ahead, doves flying up above. I only like him, she says, no more, no less, simply using the word like in its whole and full entirety. I think something is being lost in translation here. We conclude this with a shrug. As I watch the confusion, deliberation, frustration unravel in her head, red stripe falling, but the pint glass filling with dread, someone slips in the conversation, exits quickly, realises, yeah, this is a bit dead. And I tell her to tell him, you really suck the fun of being young and dating. When you gag us with your sexist rules of love. She even mentioned the L word, he says. I know she's told me she's emotionally switched off, but I think it's time for a ghost and run. And I'm engrossed by the light that fills the walls. She says, this can't be asking for too much, right? I struggle with the bubbles in my brain and say, his too much is your bare minimum. And I wouldn't let the alcohol confuse you that you need to batter and bruise your boundaries in order to let him in. Listen to me now, repeat after me. What I think has got lost in translation here is that I never asked to be your girlfriend. You're putting your fears of commitment, communication, attachment onto me. Because I don't go swiping for the feeling to happen. When something right actually happens, it will just be. And that's right, because she reminds me that dating is meant to be fun, not hard work. You know, he makes her laugh, she likes his company. Radical, I know, but girls actually have sex too. I don't know what parables and fairy tales everyone else was listening to, but just because she likes your company, one night with you is not enough for her to fall in love with you. So I tell her to tell him, let's decide what casual means together. More tequila, please. Less assumptions, more communication. Dancing and laughing till that 10 p.m. curfew. Laying naked, talking about why that spider on your wall has one leg. Stories to the flatmates, not the grandkids. Less complications, less assuming I have a weak heart because I'm a woman. Less, Felicia, what if I hurt you? More, equally, what if I hurt you? What if we hurt each other? And I'm going to finish on, I think, I'm done. Okay, well, yeah, I'll finish on the last one called Frazzled, which is basically just about how the world is a little bit not nice at the moment. And I never really know how to, sometimes it feels like it's not real. So this is just a manifestation of that 3 words. And this is Frazzled. I cook my brain for breakfast, pan on a high heat. Rashes of my consciousness laying fleshy and exposed as I turn down the volume and reach silent comfort in my sleep. I pick at my brain for breakfast, rolling dice on what's really real and what's not. I slip in and out of a daydream when awake, where the video game I walk through feels like I've swallowed a glass of euphoria and the tightest rope knots. I think in 4D, analyse in colour, heavy lids on my eyes, my stomach the home of resident butterflies. Pan spitting, intuition playing, drums inside my forehead hitting, waking up to new normals without questioning, before my scream reads midnight and the knot dissolves to essential oils and nothingness to send me to sleep.
Words. That was amazing. Thank you so much, Felicia. And thank you for watching, all of you out there. Sorry, I just remembered I don't have to be that close to the mic. We have a survey from PAL, which is the link should be, I'm like signaling like it's below the screen that you're watching. And it'd be really great if you can fill that in, because then PAL knows how much you love this, right? And that you want more of this next year, exactly this, which would be great. Also, there is a donation link, and you know, it's hard for theatres to stay open at the moment, and artists and poets got to eat too. So if you'd like to donate and be generous, we would greatly appreciate it. I'm going to do a little, I had a couple more, but we're kind of running out of time a bit because we've got one more poet to get through. So I'm going to read one more of mine, and similar vibe to one of Sophie's is like people kind of getting in your grill about what you're doing with your life. And I wrote this after I watched Toy Story 3, and I realized that they were actually promoting a new vision of relating outside nuclear families. So yeah. Haters want to judge me, curse me with their misery. It's a church-state empire legacy, a woman's sexuality tied to man and one man only. Parading heteromononormativity, hashtag only one for me, force-fed fantasy, a la Disney's unconsenting Sleeping Beauty. But folks, there's an update. It's called Toy Story 3. And Bo Peep is an independent lady. Sure, she likes a bit of Woody. No crime. But she's had time to learn, and this time it's on her terms. I also love my sheep. Better learn their names. By the way, it's my way is the highway. You can come along for the ride for a year or a day, but don't get in the way. And don't tell me to settle down. The moral is, don't turn on me if your life makes you snore. I know the score. Grandmama, may her razor-sharp tongue rest in peace, was bitter much constantly. But she was born in the 1920s. It's a whole new world, and even Disney is hitting back on the compulsory nuclear family. Unfulfilled women used to have it bad. But in the age of badass Bo Peep, what's your excuse for being so sad? So yeah, it's a bit of a diss poem for the haters as well. So I'm very pleased to welcome to the stage Fiona Thompson. Fiona is an amazing, she uses her writing and music to express herself creatively and connect with communities. She is a, I want to say veteran. No, she is a seasoned legend of activism. So in the Power Festival, there is an exhibition of photos from the Greenham Common protest, and Fiona was there, and we talked about some of her moments in feminist and LGBT activism, and so hopefully she's got lots of stuff to share for us. Oh, and she has a radio show, The World's Your Oyster. So, which I quite enjoy. It's all world music. It's a journey. So yeah, let's welcome Fiona Thompson.
So when I look over the decades, the demonstrations I've been on, the protests I've been on. Realise it wouldn't have happened without a lot of my sisters. It was all collective action. And so it seems fitting tonight that I'm not only going to just read some of my own pieces, but I'm also going to read some of my friends' pieces as well. They've been kind to give me some of their work. And I'd like to dedicate this set to Sheila McWatty, who's an Amazon, dear friend of mine who died 5 years ago. She was a former partner of mine. And it's her birthday today. If she was alive today, she'd be 65. So happy birthday, Sheila. This is for you. This is one of mine. It's called We Stand Up for the Lookout. Joining hands, heart, spirit and voice, we danced on the tip of a cruise missile. Demanding decommissioning of nuclear arms, we frustrated and befuddled authority by being leaderless, articulate, non-violent protesters, circling the base 1,000 women strong. Abseiling angels and DMs, we upturned the Lord's apple cart. Then, appealing to Queenie's assumed better nature, we flat-top suffragettes chained ourselves to her front gate, gnawing retching at rotten Section 28, and spat it into the gutter where it came from and where it belonged, marching 10,000 queers strong. Spirals of freedom, cultivating women's lands, women in tune with nature, cycles, peace, fairness and love, connecting, linking, rejecting violence against women, malevolent misogyny, patronising patriarchy. Reclaim the night, rising up 1,000,000 women strong. Forever weaving our web, forever spiralling, forever resisting gung-ho leadership invading Iraq. Wherever we started, we still come from that place. Hush. Put your conch to the ear. Listen, hear. Year after year after year, women echoing in waves. We want better, not in my name. We want better, not in my name. We want better, not in my name. Protesting worldwide women strong. I have dreamed on this mountain since first I was my mother's daughter, and you can't just take my dreams away. You may drive a big machine, but I was born a big, strong woman, and you can't just take my dreams away. I have dreamed on this mountain will be built by many daughters. Some died young and some still living. Well, if you come here to take my mountain, well, I ain't come here to give it. You can drive a big machine, but I was born a big, strong woman, and you can't just take my dreams away. This is a piece by Lel Malale. It's called Coming Out Again. Let's be clear, it wasn't lust. She wasn't my type at all, but I couldn't take my eyes off her. I hovered by the stall, just looking but trying not to be seen staring. She made everything suddenly crystal clear. She was my revelation. She was a vision of the 50s, right there in the middle of Europride 1992. Petticoated red skirt, wide red leather belt, eyeliner, blue-black ponytail and fringe hair, and the highest of patent leather shoes. Stiletto heels. How did she walk in the grass with them on? And the lipstick. Unapologetic ruby red lipstick. My gender-neutral vest and Levi's suddenly felt all wrong. She was a validating vision. I was like her. I may never be able to walk in the heels or wear the outfit with such panache, but I bought the lipstick. The reddest I could find, and set about discovering who I really was. A lipstick lesbian. This one by me is called Big Boy. Our granddaughter laughs. No, you're a big boy. 3 years old. There's no arguing with that. And arguments, I've had a few. Do you need help packing, sir? That's in the supermarket queue. Altercations, there have been some. You look so much nicer in a skirt. That's my mum. Washing dishes on the beach hut wall. Good to see a man working, winks and smiles at the old gal. Motorway toilets. Now they've got to be the best. You're in the wrong toilet. So I bare my breasts. Depositing money into my own bank account, the teller says, "That's lovely, Mr. Thompson. Tell your wife that's the right amount. Avoid getting into overdraft." You have to laugh. Now I'm a husband, married to myself. Fantastic. Not left on the shelf. Now I'm starting to have a bit of fun today. Apply the odd tash, darken eyebrows and play at being cowboy, soldier, giving bristly kisses. The ladies seem to like it. Well, the exception of me missus. Did I just say me missus? Who knows me better than most? And she knows that I'm all woman, her handsome woman. But our granddaughter's wise, big worldly eyes. What's she picking up? That I like a teacup or a mug or a cup? Lego to dolly, a hood up, not brawly. Is it my stance, the way I dance? Maybe it's 'cause we climbed the apple tree together, or my belt's made of chunky leather. Our granddaughter laughs. "No, you're a big boy." Then, "You're a woman." And before she nods off, she strokes my face. "You're Nanny Fiona." 3 years old. There's no arguing with that. We are a gentle, angry woman, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a justice-seeking people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. This is a piece by Meg Williams. It's called Protest. Back when I was a shiny youth, I marched upon a rainy street, a wild sea of women talking with their feet. I heard the thunder of 1,000 voices shout in righteous anger for our right, reclaim the night, reclaim the night. Then in my burnished middle years, I saw 1,000,000 women rise for an end to domestic violence. We chanted at the skies, and again a tumultuous sea of women in their anger roared, "No more, no more, no more." Now, in my tarnished age, I hear 1,000,000 voices soar, an insistent ciceration along 1,000 shores. Me too, me too, me too. And when 1,000,000 voices speak, they roar. This time, let no mean no forever, and let forever mean forevermore. Which side are you on? Which side are you on? Are you on the other side from me? Which side are you on? I ask you, are you on the side who likes to hunt? Are you on the side of the National Front? Are you on the side who calls me cunt? Which side are you on? I ask you, which side are you on? Which side are you on? Are you on the other side from me? Which side are you on? This is from Bronwyn Evans, and it's called Musing My Memories, a Slice of History. Carpentry, karate and motorbikes, discos, bars and clubs, squats and co-ops, Lesbos, Greenham and Women's Land, marches, demos and protests, celebrations and condemnations, pride, lots of it, girlfriends, lovers and friends making culture, art and love. And this is one of mine, The Hum of Revolution. We women, loving women, continue painting wild seascapes, lush, ferny, cloud-bursting forests, from our palette of splendid coloured rocks, lichen and foam. And we hum, and we hum. Exhibitionists in friends' garages, we're staining glass at altars beneath flapping flags of prayer, while a chain of sun-kissed women's symbols clinks and glints across the Tyne Bridge arch. And we hum. And we hum. We're humming the tunes we heard, and we've noted from the beat and call of the wild, constantly working the quilt and reworking as we thread, stitch, embroider and sew, new lines, new borders crisscrossing, fresh fabric blends with old-fashioned hues. We lie side by side, we may never meet, yet together we are held and we hold, through our patchwork of lacy gold, petrol black leather, bonny purple heather, alpine linen, washed out denim, turquoise sequins, a range of red satins, and we hum, and we hum. Reclaim the night and win the day. We want the right that should be our own, a freedom women have seldom known. The right to live, the right to walk alone without fear. Reclaim the night and win the day. We want the right that should be our own, a freedom women have seldom known. The right to live, the right to walk alone without fear. Reclaim the night and win the day. We want the right that should be our own, a freedom women have seldom known. The right to live, the right to walk alone without fear. Under the full moonlight we dance, spirits dance, we dance, joining hands we dance, joining souls rejoice.
Thank you so much, Fiona, and that was our own little vigil, and so thank you so much for organising that, and thank you everyone for watching. It's not too late to donate if you haven't already, and if you're at home, just so it feels like you're in the theatre, just have a big old clap for Fiona Thompson, Felicia Buena, Sophie Cameron, and Ellie Wood. Thank you so much. I'm Megan Garrett-Jones. This is Things with Words, Femme Fantastic at the Tom Thumb Theatre.